Do you feel the vibes?
Hey YouTube, welcome back to Love for Crypto. I did say I was going to stop doing this type of thing on YouTube, but again, it's just all about educational purposes. It's about doing it for the community, and I truly believe what I'm about to talk about may have gone over the radar with some people, and I believe that maybe most people are not even aware of what's happening here. It's absolutely great stuff. It's massive news, and it all started from going over this little article here. Obviously, in the respect of Ryan Zagone was elected to represent 90 payment technology companies. So I've had a little read through the article. Ryan Zagone, head of research on business development team, was recently elected to a task force steering committee. The task force in question was the Federal Reserve's Faster Payment Task Force steering committee. Now, if you're an XRP devoted fan, I'm sure that you're probably following CKJ News. He's gone into this in extreme depth, and has probably, educated the community and stuff. In ways that was probably unimaginable at the time from just reading the article and what was issued. And for him to get all the information that I did was great. So yeah, obviously, so I'm not going to go obviously into the Federal Reserve's Faster Payment Task Force. That alone was massive. If you do watch CKJ News, I'm sure you've heard it all, and he did a great job in unraveling the truth and mysteries below that. But what I'm going to speak to you today, sort of elaborated from this point down here, which was notably Zagone is part of the Research Advisory Board on the Better Than Cash Alliance. It is an effort to accelerate digital payments in undeveloped countries. He went on to say, I will continue Ripple Labs' constructive approach in working with peers, banks, partners, and the broader financial industry, including NACHA, the IPFA, and the W3C. So just before I move on to what this video is actually based on, I just want to give you a quick little overcap of what these things are. So the Better Than Cash Alliance is a global partnership of governments, companies and international organizations that accelerates the transition from cash to digital payments in order to reduce poverty and drive inclusive growth. Based at the United Nations, the Alliance has over 50 members, works closely with other global organizations, and is implementing partners for the G20 Global Partnership for Financial Inclusion. The Alliance, funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Citi, MasterCard, Omdina Network, USAID, Visa Inc., and the United Nations Capital Development Fund Services as the I'll forget that word. So yeah, so the Better Than Cash Alliance partners with governments, companies, international organisations that are key drivers behind the transition to make digital payments widely available. So that's the first one. The second one is the NACHA. Previously, the National Automated Clearinghouse Association manages the development, administration and government of the ACH network, the backbone for electronic movement of money and data in the United States. It is funded by financial institutions it governs. The ACA network serves as a network for direct consumer, business and government payments, and annually facilitates billions of payments such as direct deposits and direct payments used by all types of financial institutions. The ACH network is governed by the NACHA operating rules, a set of rules that guide risk management and create certainty for all participants. And just a little quick one before I do move on. The NACHA announced that ACH network processed more than 25 billion payments worth more than $43 trillion in 2016. That's an absolutely ridiculous amount of money to be moved. And again, it's just great to know that Zagone is part of these research advisory boards. It's massive for Ripple, and more than anything, it's massive for the future of payments. So obviously, we've gone over the advisory board on the Better Than the Cash Alliance. We've gone over the NACHA. What I'm going to go over now is the W3C. Now, the W3C is the Global Web Experts Plan Technical Roadmap for the Future of Web. It's the World Wide Web Consortium. There's a lot to read through this article, so I'm just going to go into the relevant key points of what this video is actually about. If you have a look here, it says web payments. The Web Payments Working Group is developing an API to streamline the online checkout process and make payments easier and more secure on the web. Now, again, obviously, if you just go on www.w3.org, you can see all this information if you do want to have a read through it. There's a lot of stuff to actually go over in that respect. So what I've done is I've looked into this, obviously, web payments. This is sort of the line, Ripple, RippleNet, xRapid, web payments. We can see it being integrated in a massive way. So I've clicked onto the Web Payments Working Group, wondering, these are the people that are developing the API. So I've clicked onto the working group, and again, the Web Payments Working Group charter. This is the last update. So the start date was from March this year, and it runs till the back end of next year, end date. Again, this has got a lot of stuff to go through. Obviously, if you just follow the link there, you can access all this to yourself if you do want to look into it into great detail. But what I have actually pulled up here for this part here is this. The working group has discussed but not taken up formally the payment method specifications on the following topics. The working group will decide whether these should be published on the recommendation track or as working group notes. So we've got here, and it states clearly Interledger Payments in cooperation with the Interledger Payments Community Group. Again, it's Interledger, it's blockchain, it sounds like Ripple. Most of the time it probably could relate back to them. But another little thing here on the curation of working group resources, it says note to promote interoperability. Now, obviously, we know that we gain the interoperability from the ILP, from Ripple's Interledger protocol. So from there, I've obviously looked at the Interledger Payments in cooperation with the Interledger Payments Community. So I've looked onto the community, the Interledger Payments Community Group. The primary goal of the Interledger Payments Community Group is connecting the many payment networks, ledgers around the world via the web. The group's vision is an open, universal payment scheme built on web standards that allow any payer or payee, regardless of the payer's choice of payment instrument or payee's account. So, obviously, we've got Visa running on one network, we've got MasterCard running on another network, we've got blockchains running on another network, and we need to be able to connect all these devices if we truly want to have the Internet of Value. So, obviously, I've had a look through this, and I scrolled down, and bear in mind, it is posted on the 2016, so, again, it's a couple of years ago. But if we have a look on the board, we can see Stephen Thomas, Evan Schwartz. And the use case demos and discussion is the HTTP/ILP web payment, smart hosting, Internet of Things, and we look down and we can see crypto conditions, connector API, ledger API. It's Ripple. I've been working on achieving the Internet of Value for many years before all the hype of blockchain came around. And I wanted to look into exactly what the Interledger Payments Community Group was. And little did I know, BankXRP, shout out to him if you're not following, definitely give him a follow. He's got absolutely class A information always coming up on his Twitter. But the Web Payments Working Group, as you can see, we've got Ripple that are part of that working group. But not only that, we've got Airbnb, Alibaba, American Express, Apple. I mean, you name it. We go through this list. We've got all the major interfaces of web payments. We've even got Facebook on there. The Federal Reserve are also part of this as well. IBM. You're looking through this list, and the names that we're seeing, MasterCard, Microsoft, Mozilla. We've got WorldPay, we've got Shopify, Samsung, Ripple. It's absolutely massive, the Web Payments Working Group. And this was a photograph, I mean, it's only just come in circulation as far as I'm aware on Twitter recently. So when I looked over here, I've looked into it, and little did I know. I mean, Ripple have actually had this on their insights. And again, from October 2015 now. This is going down a little bit of a rabbit hole in respect of what sort of CKJ has been doing with the Federal Reserve. But I came across W3C and never really looked into it, what I thought it could be. or never just really give it the time. But as time's been going on through certain articles, which I'm about to show you, I've actually realised of absolutely how huge this is. And the little statement from Ripple: just as important as building great technologies, working together and agreeing on a standardized way of doing things. After all, the birth of the web was grounded in the standardization of protocols like the HTTP. The adoption of common internet standards will have similar transformative impact on the world of payments by lowering cost, expanding reach, and enabling interoperability. Again, this all comes from Ripple. This immense potential hasn't been lost on the World Wide Web Consortium, W3C, which has been working tirelessly to promote web payment standards. Early this year, Ripple joined the W3C Web Payments Interest Group and established the Internet of Value Task Force, which met up in New York this past June. Last week, the W3 launched the Web Payments Working Group with the goal of establishing standardized APIs that would allow streamlined payments through the browser. Now, obviously, we've got people like Stephen Thomas, which I just spoke to you about, even Schwartz. Obviously, at that point, they was part of this group, which have obviously they've done the sort of the presentation is probably the best way of putting it. But I think this is absolutely massive. Again, it just shows how long Ripple have really been working on trying to create the Internet of Value. And I think if it wasn't without Ripple's Interledger protocol, then maybe we wouldn't be able to get that seamlessly connectivity that we can establish by using I mean, especially Ripple's XRP, well, not Ripple's XRP, but the XRP token, the utility asset that we all keep talking about, that we hear so much good news about. And it actually does state on here, I think, if I remember right, includes participants from the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis, I think that's how you pronounce it, Wells Fargo, and other distributed technology startups like R3. So obviously moving forward from this point, now we're talking about this API, about the goal of establishing standardized APIs. Now, the W3C payment request API is being implemented in all major browsers. Just reading a little bit of what it says, and announced that the payment request API is now being implemented. I mean, and this was in 2017 in all major browsers, including Chrome, Edge, Firefox, WebKit, Facebook, Samsung have also introduced support for the W3 payment request API. The Facebook Messenger extensions includes a payment request. I could keep reading through these articles, but I'm not really a big fan of doing so. But yeah, you can clearly see where I'm heading with this. So the W3 Web Payments Working Group is working on quite a few projects related to web and mobile payments. The Payment Handler API provides a standard method of initiating payment requests from web pages and application, enabling websites to become payment applications. The payment method manifest is a potential, it's not official, but the W3C specification that defines the payment method manifest file, according to the W3C announcement post, the payment method manifest supports the secure deployment of third-party payment apps for proprietary payment methods. In 2016, the group published the first public working draft of the West payment specifications. Now, the one that I did show you was the updated version. And as you can see, the formal adoption of work under consideration, and then you've got the curation of working group resources, obviously, that we speak about, the interoperability. In my eyes, this is absolutely massive. I mean, we can see the request APIs being implemented, but when we do move forward, we need to ask ourselves, again, it's not a confirmation, but introducing the payment request API for Apple Pay. We're pleased to announce, I mean, this was only in April this year, now support the W3C payment request API for conducting Apple Pay transactions on the web. This is just a small little piece on it here. But the thing that really made me connect all the dots together, and again, we can't connect the dots by speculating in the future. It's only by going back on ourselves in history where we can really speculate what's happening and connect those dots. And I love the work that CKJ has been doing recently, and it really did move me towards. I mean, I didn't purposely, plan on making this video. It just came to light, and I just thought there's not really much talk about this in the Ripple community. So moving on to this article, And we posted this on our Twitter ourselves. Apple prefers W3C into Ledger for web transactions. Ripple loves Visa hates. Apple has announced Safari 11 on macOS and Safari iOS will support the W3C World Wide Web Consortium payment request API for conducting Apple Pay transactions on the web. Notably, the payment request API uses W3C Interledger, a global standard for interoperability. Ripple is the co-chair of the W3C. Now, more importantly, the cheapest source for liquidity using Interledger is Ripple XRP token. So it seems Ripple has already secured a big deal. It should be remembered that Apple Pay is perceived as a competitor to Visa. Almost all big players and browsers that offered their support for the W3C Interledger. The editors of the W3C payment request API are big names in the tech field. They are, and obviously it names the people here: Facebook, Google, Mozilla. Any digital asset can be transferred or exchanged to another digital asset across any ledger that supports the open Interledger protocol. I mean, I could continue to read this again. But in fact I will do. Interledger is an open protocol suite for sending payments across different ledgers, like routers on the internet. Connectors route packets of money across independent payment networks. The open architectural and minimal protocol enable interoperability for any value transfer. Interledger is not tied to any one company, blockchain or currency. And again, this is like the massive thing. Everyone always claims that XRP is a centralized token, if you want to call it. I think Ripple currently have 25 nodes validating transactions on RippleNet at the moment, which is said to be 0 by the end of this year, meaning that the XRP ledger will be truly decentralized, open network, and this is exactly what we need for this type of for this API that we're looking for moving towards into the future. Interledger is developed by an open group of companies and individual contributors, loosely organised as part of the community of group of the World Wide Web Consortium. Now, obviously, if we just have a look through everything, basically what we've just covered, you know, some of these articles, I mean, especially this one. This was in 2015. We've come a long way since that. We're nearly 3 years from that. There, you know, we've had all the summits, the talks about the API. But as you can see now, we can see that we've got companies actually implementing the W3C Interledger for web transactions. And I don't know whether this is speculation or not, but it just makes perfect sense in the world that we're living in. We're always hearing interoperability, you know, and it is Ripple that can provide this. And if this appears to be the case, you know, your SBIs, your Santander using XRapid, you can forget about that. We're talking about opening the Ripple net, not necessarily the Ripple net, but the XRPL ledger open to billions of users of the internet. And if that's not massive, then I'm not too sure really what is in that respect. So yeah, I mean, obviously I did say in one of the last live streams you'll be hearing a lot more about the W3C, but I feel that this is definitely worth talking about in that respect. I think there's massive potential behind this theory. I think it was absolutely relevant for me to get this out to the community. I mean, let me know in the comment section exactly what you do think about this. It makes perfect sense. You know, it's about connecting all these dots. We've got the Federal Reserve Task Force, which is looking to implement Ripple. We've got the new W3C Interledger for web transactions, looking to implement the XRPL ledger. It's just looking like everything is fitting nice and perfectly. And we always talk about stuff going on in the background, stuff that we're not really getting confirmation for why they're building on these processes. And I think this is something that's absolutely massive. And I think this will truly create the internet of value. You know, we're not just talking about remittances here. We're not just talking about cross-border payments. We're talking about any payment that can be settled through web browsers such as Google, such as Amazon, such as Facebook. You know, whether you're paying with a card, whether you're paying with Bitcoin, whether you're paying with Litecoin, it can all be interoperable through one thing, and it is this. And it is what we have so much faith in as the community. I think this is absolutely massive news. I may be mistaken. I could possibly be over speculating here, but again, I think it all makes fucking perfect sense to me. So yeah, again, if you've liked this video, please drop us a like for the channel. It helps us go a long way. I just feel like this little this rabbit hole really needed to be talked about, really, and I think it's massive, and you know, it all stems from our Ryan Ziegler, and again, he's representing 90 payment technology companies. You know, he's on the Federal Reserve a task force. He's on, you know, he's basically, you know, in partnership, communication, whatever you want to call it, with these, you know, with these bodies. It's massive news. It's absolutely fucking massive news. I mean, when you look through it and you look really behind the scenes of exactly what's been going on and for how long, I mean, you know, this was in 2016. You know, Ripple first started talking about W3C in 2015. You know, we've got basically the W3C payment request API. It's been implemented in all major browsers. Now we're going into 2017, and we can see, you know, just from a month ago, the news that has just come out in April 2018 that it prefers the W3C Interledger for web transactions, and that alone is absolutely massive. It really is going to show we're taking that step towards the internet of value, where value can move as seamlessly as information does today. I'm going to leave the video at that one. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've been really excited about doing this video, to be honest with you. I just had to get it done. But again, thanks for the support for the channel anyway.